communication is just more than words. It's actually just power.
Some of the things on this podcast will talk about heavy topics that we hope to communicate clearly about.
Communication to me is when you talk to others.
Communication helps us build relationships.
Stay tuned on the Nightly Podcast.
Make sure you tune in to our podcast, the Nightly Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Nightly Podcast. I am here with Gabriel. He is a minister and a pastor, as well as a choir director with First Love Church in New Jersey. Thank you so much for coming to visit our school today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Of course. So, to start us off, can you tell us about your role in the church?
Okay. So, I am the lead pastor at First Love Church, and I started a ministry in 2019. After around almost 10 years, I was a choir director in a church here in town in Somerset, Community Baptist Church. And in 2017, I left the ministry and I started a First Love Church in 2019. So right now, my role at the church, I am the lead pastor at First Love Church.
Okay, and what does it mean to start a ministry?
Yes.
To start or to found like a church, a whole church?
Yes. So that's an interesting story because when I left Community Baptist Church, I was the choir director. I directed the choir for many years there. And so when I left, I had a group of people that met at my house. So every Wednesday, we used to have a group of people that we would come together, we would pray, we would share the Word of God. And that group started to grow and grew to the point that we didn't have space. People were up the stairs, they were seated in different parts of the house. We had like 15 kids in the basement. So it started to overflow to the point that, okay, we need to do something about it because the neighbors were like already like, what's going on there? So at some point we started to pray and we decided as a group, we said, hey, let's start a ministry. Let's start a church because we have already a community. And so that was the reason that we move on and we start our own ministry. So it's, and in 2019, so First Love Church started.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. That's a very cool story. Now, as a pastor, you have a very interesting job because you are, in a sense, obligated to help people in one of the most personal ways, and that way is spiritually, whether someone aligns with a particular religion or they choose not to align with a certain belief. Everyone has their own spiritual path, and it's not always easy to navigate.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, what is it like helping so many individuals navigate such a personal part of their lives and their identity?
Yes. Well, we as a Christian pastor, right, we receive people from all kinds of walks, and when they come to us, they are looking for spirituality or they are looking for the connection with God. That's the meaning of religion. Religion is the reconnection, right? Reconnection with God. And we as Christians, we believe that Jesus is the way to God. In John 14:6, it says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father unless through me. So our job, as a pastor is to introduce those who are looking for God to Jesus Christ and his teachings so they can be reconnected to God. So, so that's the first step. But we receive everybody, in their beliefs, and we teach the gospel, which is the good news of Jesus Christ. And by doing that, then their identities are transformed. And so that's a very powerful movement that happens in the church, is because they come as they are. They come as the way they are. But once they meet Jesus Christ, their identity is changed because now their identity are in God, in Jesus. And so their lives start to change. And that's such a beautiful part of my job, is to see that transformation, and this renovation and this change of life through the teachings of Jesus Christ.
And another huge part of your job is bringing people together as a community. So what are some ways your church brings people together?
Well, I love that question because that's basically my heart is for community, and we're gonna get probably later to my works with the community here, even in Somerset. And so when I started church, one of the things that I wanted to do is interact with other ministries in town, other churches. And so we build community by interacting with other pastors. So I have many pastors friends in which we do things together. We bless the community together. We do activities together, right? So we go to each other's churches. So it's bringing the community of churches together through the leadership, to the pastors. So it always been my heart to bring people together. So one of the things about being a pastor, I always say, you have to love people. If you don't love people, that's not for you. But you have to love people. You have to love that community, that getting people together. And that's something that I love, through fellowship, or, I love a good barbecue. I love a good community gathering. We'd have music and we do things together. So, and all that to demonstrate the love of God for one another. And so when we are in those type of environments, in community bringing together, we can feel the love of God among ourselves.
And you correct me if I'm wrong, but you started a youth group at your church?
Oh yeah. Our church has a youth group. And it's an interesting story because we started very small. Our church was very small, and my son is a teenager now. And he was like, Daddy, we don't have many teenagers in the church. And I said, well, Michael is his name. You should start to pray. And he started to pray. And just by last year or so, the youth group went from 3 people to 30 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Just
in the last year.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
so now there is a youth group, and they are very strong. They love each other. They love to come together, and so it's amazing to see their community growing as well.
And you and your son worked on that together?
Yeah. He kind of led this whole movement because my son is kind of like me. He loves people. He's always around people, and he loves to bring people together. And so he is a main piece of this youth group. Yeah.
I love that. That's so special. So another thing that your church did, or that you did, is you started a choir. So tell me about that. It's the CFM choir.
Yes.
Now, what does that stand for?
It stands for Community Fellowship Mass Choir. Community Fellowship Mass Choir. And that became an organization, but it started in my former ministry at Community Baptist here in Somerset. With the former pastor, Pastor Gary Taylor. I remember having that need to interact with other churches. I always had this community sense that we needed to know each other. And unfortunately, we know that Sunday mornings can be very separated. We can have 10 churches in the area, but we don't know each other. So I said, how can we bring them together? And because I was a choir director in that church, I was a music minister there. I had an idea to bring other choirs together and start one big choir, which we call the Mass Choir. So that's why we called Community Fellowship Mass Choir. Mass Choir is a big choir. And so I sent out letters to the other churches, and that was in 2013. And I sent letters to the other churches, and we did a little recruiting in the YouTube, we sent videos around. And all of a sudden, we had around 30 churches that joined us, and we got to around 100 members at some point in the choir, and the orchestra at some point joined us too. So the Community Fellowship Mass Choir is a combination of over 30 churches, and we celebrated just recently 10 years of ministry. So I think we are now heading to our 12th year that we are around. And with this choir, we bring the community together. We sing in events in the township, other churches, even internationally. I travel with the choir.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. I didn't know that.
Yes, it's very exciting. At some point, we started to go as a mission. We went to Brazil, and we sang in different places. We helped different churches to establish their own music ministry. And I conduct workshops teaching people to sing gospel, because our main style of singing is gospel music. So I was able to bring the gospel music to Brazil. I've been to Canada, and we also started helping through the choir. We help other ministries too, and we help to build up a school in Africa, in Uganda, in which me personally, we went there and we partnered with the Rock Church Ministries in Uganda. So with the choir, there was a lot of open doors to minister to the whole world, to serve a lot of people and to bring a lot of people together.
That's amazing. Now, how do you organize 100 voices?
Oh yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Is it like 100 voices like all at once? You split it into smaller groups? What do you do?
Yes, that's actually a good question. Yes, and that's what I do when I go to places, and we teach how to put together a big group. So in the choir, you have three sections. You have in the gospel choir. Okay, in the gospel choir, mostly you use the altos, the sopranos, and the tenors. The tenors for the men, alto sopranos for the ladies. In my case, I separate the choir, and sopranos on my right side, altos on my left side, and the tenors in the middle. We have, for men, we have bass and tenors. There's different, they are like lower singers. But in the gospel choir, we don't use them because we have a full band, right? So I rehearse them all together. I put everybody together. We teach them their parts, and then we put everybody together, and it sounds great. So it's really it's a really how can I say, a blessed environment. To be honest, I love more the rehearsals. We had such a good time in the rehearsals than the concert in itself, because we put a big concert at the end of the rehearsal seasons, twice a year, spring and Christmas. Big concert we had, and sometimes over 1,000 people show up. Yeah.
Where do you do you do that all within a church? Do you have to go to some other locations, or you're able to?
Yeah. Yes. So this is not. My church is located. We are hosted by a Korean church here in town called Praise Presbyterian Church. They're such lovely brothers and sisters, and we do our concerts at their sanctuary. Their sanctuary fits around 650 people. But sometimes when the choir grows, we have to go to other facilities, because sometimes, as I said, around 1,000 people can show up. So we go in different churches. Actually, this is the goal. We do concert in different churches so we can promote that communion and fellowship. Yeah.
Now, Gabriel, another reason why he's here, he's an amazing guest to have, but he is also a member of your choir, is a teacher here, and I think that you have a lot in common. You have your faith in common.
Yes.
But you are both teachers, I would say.
Yes,
that's such an
that's
amazing
for sure.
thing. You seem to really, really enjoy working with people and teaching people, teaching your friends, that's really amazing.
Yes.
Now, I was gonna ask, how do you see CFM expanding? But you guys are huge already. So do you see any expansion in the future?
Yes. So one of the things that I'm trying, and for all those years, we are trying to record an album of our own. And this has been a challenge, because although we have many recordings of live music, we don't have much of a professional quality album. We recorded a song that we can find it in YouTube. You can go find us in YouTube. If you put Community Fellowship Mass Choir, you're gonna find some things about the choir, but not an entire album. So this is one thing that it's in my heart for us to accomplish in the next season of the choir. And in terms of expansion, we are always looking for more people, because unfortunately nowadays it's very hard to get people together to sing. Back in the 90s, the mass choirs were very known. So we had choirs with 200, 300 people. But it seems that this culture of choirs are not something that is here anymore. It's kind of fading away. So we are trying to hold on and bring it back. So I really love to have a choir of 200 people, 300 people. So hopefully even this podcast, if you're listening to it, if you sing, just contact me so you can join the choir.
Bigger is always better.
Yes, always can improve.
So you shared, so some of your answers have already answered this question, but from your perspective, how have you seen music play a role in bringing people together?
Yes, that's a great question, actually. Well, music transcends, right, barriers. So every time you have music, you can break some barriers that society sometimes put in. Like for instance, racial barriers or cultural barriers, or even in the church, denominational barriers, doctrine barriers, right? You can all come together and sing and make good music, and all those things are put it to the side because we are all connected through music. So one of the things with the choir, or the beautiful thing about having a mass choir, is that we break those barriers through gospel music, and we are all connected to that style of music. So it doesn't matter what you believe, what your denominational of your church. It doesn't really matter. We are all singing about Jesus, and we're all singing about God. So and then we are all together in that. So in that very moment, I'm not questioning what your doctrine or questioning what's your background, or we are not doing this. We are singing for God, and there's only one a goal. So the music can really break those barriers.
That's amazing. Now, has music always been a big part of your life?
Yes. Yes. Well, that's an interesting story. So I grew up in Brazil, so I'm a Brazilian, and so music always been involved. But I love percussion. Used to play percussion, Brazilian instruments, and then when I was around 16, I started to play drums. And soon enough, I became a professional in drumming. So I started to do a career just playing drums. So I play for many concerts, recordings, big concerts, stadiums. I did everything that you can imagine on the music side in the beginning of my career, right? And so music always been part of my life since I was young. Although my immediate family, I don't have musicians. My grandfather was a musician, but not my immediate family. So in my family, I started playing and developing music gifts. And then I had that's an interesting thing. My first band was a punk rock band. So yeah, so we played, and we became pretty known in town. So we would pack the venues with punk rock, and they call hardcore, punk rock. And so yeah, so that was my beginning, of my musical career, was playing drums, and music always been part of my life. And I always love also black music. So back in Brazil, back in my time, we still have the vinyls. I don't know. This is something that your generation probably, it doesn't hear too much about it.
I've heard the word.
You see,
Okay,
you
yeah,
see,
I've heard
the little the thing, the black round plastic, exactly, the spinny things. So I used to listen to Trace Chapman, and I loved her music. I love Stevie Wonder. All those singers were really touched me back in the day. So I loved the soulful gospel music too. So that all was part of my influence. And in my mom's side, I was influenced by the Beatles. Have you heard about the Beatles? That's old. That's old. But they were a revolution in music back in the days, and my mom loved that. So I listened to that too. And later on, I was very heavily influenced by jazz music as well. That was late in my career as a drummer. That was I was playing jazz and instrumental music. So that's whole mix. It is in here, and now I do gospel. I do Christian music. So.
Do you remember that your church knows that you do all this?
Oh yeah, so
you're a pretty cool guy.
they know little by little things that happen. So yeah, there's a lot of stories for sure.
Now, you're mentioning Korea a lot. I know you said one of the churches that you organize out of is, remind me again what that? church is called?
The First Love Church?
No, not First Love Church. You said that it's like a Korean church.
Oh, the Korean church. Yes,
Yes.
yes. So the Korean church, Praise Presbyterian, with Pastor No, is down the street here in Somerset, and they opened the door to host us.
Okay.
So they are a big church, so they have several rooms there. So in one of their smaller sanctuaries, the smaller area for auditoriums, that's where we meet. So they are partnered with us. They are a phenomenal group of believers, and so we are now close together. And they really help all that. They help the choir. They help us with the church. So it's a great partnership.
Very cool. And did you mention that you traveled to Korea? Have you traveled to?
I never traveled to Korea,
Okay.
so maybe one day I will go there. I almost went to Japan,
Uh-huh.
but then COVID hit and I couldn't go.
Yeah.
But but one day maybe.
Now, since you do so much, how do you balance so many passions while individually taking those passions and growing them into these monuments that help and serve people?
Yes. So as a believer, what I learn is that whatever I have is not for myself. Whatever I have is for the service of people. So every time I put myself in front of a choir, I'm there for the people, to love them and to make that experience the best that I can. So whatever the gifts that I have is to serve, is to give to the people, you know. So I think the hardest thing to balance in what I do is to balance my family life with everything else that I do, because I have to have my personal time with my family and with everything else, right? So if I have that balance, I get it all. So that's everything else is easy. So I think that if you have this inside of you, that whatever God gave it to you is for you to give it away. You know, that's whatever the Bible says, whatever you receive for free, you give it for free. You know, so if by grace you receive all that God has for you, you give it for free, right? For free in the sense that you freely give, right? Obviously, there's some things that you need, you know, maybe some money to get accomplished, but you don't put that as a factor, a decisive factor to do what you have to do to bless the people. You know?
Now, my last question for you, in what ways are you proud of the amazing work that you have done inside of your church and with the CFM choir?
Okay, so, well, I can say that I'm proud. You know, I thank God. I thank God that I had this opportunity, you know, that to do that. You know, I think the opportunities that were given to me were rare opportunities, and I'm just thankful to God that I was able to do it. You know, that I was able to get whatever the opportunity was given to me, and I could transform in something that it's been a blessing to many people. So, you know, if I will boast in anything, I will boast in what God has done. You know, so that's what I would say.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You are such an amazing organizer, an amazing pastor, and an amazing teacher. And I want to thank you so much for coming to visit our school today.
Thank you.
And I'm going to give another shout out to your church, First Love Church in New Jersey, and the Community
Fellowship Mass Choir. Yes.
And then another shout out to Miss Hobbs, who is watching us right now.
Yes.
Thank you again for coming to visit our school and sitting down with me today. And thank you so much for tuning in to the Nightly Podcast. I will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you, Julia.
All right. Thank you so much.
That was amazing.
Uh-huh.
You are an incredible host. Thank you so much.
Thank
They're
you.
very
I
talented.
appreciate that.
Very good. I really enjoy my time with you.